When my phone rang that Tuesday afternoon, I almost didn't answer it. I was elbow deep in paperwork at the auto shop, grease still under my fingernails from a transmission I'd been rebuilding since morning. My daughter Lily rarely called during school hours, she usually texted, so when I saw her name flashing across the screen, something inside me tightened. Dad, her voice sounded small. Lily, what's wrong? It's Grandpa, he's really sick, Mom says it's bad. For a moment I couldn't breathe. My father, Henry Dawson, was 78, stubborn as an ox, proud as a lion, and as strong as anyone half his age. He still chopped his own firewood, still climbed ladders to clean his gutters, still refused to admit he needed reading glasses. What do you mean bad? I asked, already reaching for my keys. He collapsed this morning. Mom said the doctor came. She told me not to worry, but she was crying. That hit harder than anything. My ex-wife Carla and I hadn't been together in 6 years, but I knew her. She didn't cry easily, not in front of Lily. Where is he now? I asked. At home, Mom says he wants to stay there. That didn't sit right with me. If it was serious enough to collapse, he should have been in a hospital. I'll go check on him, I said. There was a pause on the other end. Mom said you don't have to, she said she'll handle it. I'll handle it too, I replied firmly. After we hung up, I wiped my hands on a rag, told my assistant I was leaving early, and drove straight across town to my father's house, the same brick home I'd grown up in. The drive felt longer than usual. My mind raced through worst-case scenarios: stroke, heart attack, something we'd missed, I hadn't visited in a week. Guilt crept in, sharp and unforgiving. What if I should have checked in sooner? When I pulled into the driveway, I noticed something strange. There were 2 unfamiliar cars parked outside. One was a sleek black SUV, the other a silver sedan with tinted windows. Neither belonged to my father. I stepped out slowly, scanning the yard. The porch light was on, even though it was still daylight. The front door was slightly ajar. A knot formed in my stomach. I didn't knock. I pushed the door open and stepped inside. And froze. The living room looked like it had been rearranged. The old leather recliner my father loved, the one with duct tape on the arm, was gone. In its place sat a modern beige armchair. The family photos that used to line the mantel had been taken down. Boxes were stacked near the hallway. What the hell? I muttered. Voices drifted in from the dining room. Carla's voice. And a man's. I walked toward the sound, my heartbeat pounding in my ears. When I turned the corner, I felt like the floor dropped out from under me. My father wasn't lying in bed, weak and pale. He was sitting upright at the dining table, signing papers. A man in a gray suit sat across from him, smiling politely. Carla stood beside them, arms crossed, watching carefully. All 3 looked up when they saw me. Silence filled the room. Tom, Carla said, her expression shifting to something between surprise and annoyance. What are you doing here? I stared at my father. He looked thinner, frailer than I remembered, but his eyes were clear. Lily said you collapsed, I said, my voice tight. She said you were seriously ill. My father's brow furrowed. Collapsed. Carla shot him a look. Dad, you fainted this morning, she said quickly. Don't you remember? He hesitated. Well, I did feel dizzy. The man in the suit cleared his throat. We were just finalizing some arrangements. What arrangements? I demanded. Carla stepped forward. This isn't your business, Tom. The words hit like a slap. It's my father, I said. It's my business. The man began gathering papers nervously. Perhaps I should step out. No, I said sharply. You can stay. I'd like to know exactly what's going on. I looked at the documents on the table. Property transfer forms. My father's house. Signed over. To Carla. My vision blurred for a second. You've got to be kidding me, I whispered. Carla's jaw tightened. He wants me to have it. I turned to my father. Is that true? He looked confused. Well, Carla's been helping me a lot lately, driving me to appointments, bringing groceries. And I pressed. She says it'll be easier if the house is in her name, in case something happens. My chest burned. Dad, if something happens, I'm your son, Lily's your granddaughter. Why would the house go to my ex-wife? Carla's face hardened. Because you're never around. That struck a nerve. I'm here now. After I told you not to come, she shot back. You told our daughter her grandfather collapsed, I snapped. You made it sound like he was dying. My father looked between us, increasingly unsettled. Carla, he said slowly, did you tell Lily I was dying? I didn't say that, she replied quickly. She overreacted. I stepped closer to the table and picked up one of the papers. This transfers full ownership. Immediately, Dad, once you sign this, it's not yours anymore. Carla's voice sharpened. Stop confusing him. Confusing him. I looked at my father carefully. Dad, I said gently, crouching beside him, do you understand what this document does? He blinked. It makes things simpler. For who? I asked softly. His silence was answer enough. The man in the suit shifted uncomfortably. Mr. Dawson, perhaps we should postpone. Yes, I said firmly, we should. Carla slammed her hand on the table. This is ridiculous, he asked for this. Did he? I asked. My father looked tired suddenly, very tired. Carla said it would protect the house from taxes, he murmured, and from probate. I nodded slowly. Those are things we can discuss with a lawyer, together, not like this. Carla's composure began to crack. You have no right to interfere, she hissed. I have every right, I replied calmly. He's my father. The room went still. Then my father did something unexpected. He pushed the papers away. I think, he said quietly, I need a moment. Carla stared at him. Henry, we talked about this. I know, he said, but Tom's right, I don't want to rush. The man in the suit stood up immediately. We can reschedule. He gathered his briefcase and headed for the door, clearly eager to escape. Carla remained frozen, fury simmering beneath her surface. When the door shut behind the lawyer, she turned to me. You always ruin everything. I laughed bitterly. Ruin what? Your real estate deal. Her eyes flashed. You have no idea what I've done for him. Then explain it, I challenged. She faltered. That was all I needed. I turned to my father. When did you start feeling unwell? He hesitated again. I've been tired. Carla said it might be my heart. Did a doctor say that? Well, no. I stood slowly. We're going to the hospital, I said. Carla immediately objected. He doesn't need that. Yes, he does. I replied firmly, and if there's nothing wrong, great, but we're checking. My father looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes I hadn't seen in years. Relief. All right, he said quietly. Carla stepped back, her control slipping. You're making a mistake, she warned. No, I said evenly, I'm fixing one. At the hospital, tests revealed something surprising. My father hadn't had a heart issue. He was severely dehydrated. And mildly overmedicated. Overmedicated, I asked the doctor. Yes, she replied, he's been taking a higher dosage of blood pressure medication than prescribed. My father frowned. Carla organizes my pills. I felt ice settle in my veins. When we returned to the house that evening, Carla was gone. So were the boxes. So was the beige armchair. It was as if someone had tried to quietly erase parts of my father's life. I helped him sit in his old kitchen chair, the one she hadn't replaced yet. Dad, I said gently, did you ask Carla to handle your medication? She offered, he admitted, said I was forgetting things. And were you? He looked down at his hands. Maybe a little, or maybe she just said I was. We sat in silence. Finally he spoke. She told me you were struggling, that you might lose your shop, that you needed money but were too proud to ask. I blinked. What? She said signing the house over would protect it, that you might sell it otherwise. The realization hit hard. She was isolating you, I said quietly, making you doubt me. He nodded slowly, shame clouding his features. I didn't want to believe it. I placed my hand over his. You don't have to handle things alone. For the first time in years, my father's eyes filled with tears. I thought I was helping her, he whispered. You were being taken advantage of. The next morning I changed the locks. I contacted a real estate attorney, one not connected to Carla. We revoked any documents that had been drafted. And I moved my father into my home temporarily, until we could arrange proper in-home care. When Lily came over that weekend, she hugged her grandfather tightly. Mom said you were really sick, she told him. He smiled sadly. I'm tougher than I look. Later that evening, Carla showed up at my door. She looked furious. You've poisoned him against me. No, I replied calmly, you did that yourself. She threatened lawyers. She accused me of manipulation. But the truth was simple, she'd underestimated two things. My father's clarity. And my willingness to show up. Because sometimes the most important thing you can do is walk through the door unannounced. If I hadn't come that day, my father would have signed everything away. He would have continued taking incorrect medication. He might have deteriorated faster. Instead, he regained his strength, his confidence, and most importantly, his independence. A month later, he sat on my porch sipping coffee, stronger than ever. You know, he said thoughtfully, I'm glad Lily called you. So am I replied. He looked at me, eyes steady. I should have trusted you more. I smiled. And I should have visited more. We both laughed quietly. Because in the end, it wasn't just about a house. It was about showing up. About refusing to let fear, pride, or distance create cracks big enough for someone else to slip through. My daughter said her grandfather had fallen ill. And when I showed up without warning, I couldn't believe my eyes. But what I found wasn't just a betrayal. It was a second chance. And this time we weren't going to waste it.